Record. Okay, so let's see, let's move this out of the way. Feel free to jump in the comments section. I hope I will be able to see that. I think I will set up for you to do that. And here we go. Episode 11 of season 2. Today we're talking about creative flow, finding and sustaining your creative rhythm, how to get into and stay in the flow state as a creative. What if creative flow wasn't something you had to chase, but something you could invite in and even design your process around? That beautiful state where ideas just click, time disappears, and you feel fully immersed in your creative work. It feels magical when it happens. But for so many artists, it also feels elusive. In today's episode of The Thriving Creative, we're talking about how to cultivate the conditions that help you find and sustain your creative flow, even in the midst of busy schedules, self-doubt, and the everyday noise of life. I'll also share some examples of artists who've designed their creative practices around flow, showing that it's not just luck, it's a skill that you can nurture. So let's get started. Welcome back to The Thriving Creative. I'm Gabrielle Senza, and today we're diving into something that every creative craves, that incredible feeling of creative flow. It's that experience where your mind, body, and imagination sync up and everything just clicks. You lose track of time, ideas flow effortlessly, and the work seems to create itself. Have you ever had that experience? It's pretty sublime. And such a mystery, right? But here's the thing. Flow isn't some mysterious magical gift that only strikes under perfect conditions. It's something you can cultivate. And the more you understand what sparks your personal flow state, the more reliably you can get there. So today we'll explore what creative flow actually is and why it's so valuable, common blocks that interrupt flow and how to avoid them, simple ways to design your environment, habits, and mindset to invite more flow into your creative practice, and stories from artists who've mastered the art of working in flow. So let's dive in. What is creative flow and why does it matter? Creative flow is more than just a productive work session. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi described it as a state of complete absorption, where your skills and challenges are perfectly matched and you feel both focused and free. In flow, you lose your sense of time, as we've said before. You feel immersed in the work. You experience effortless focus, and you often create some of your most surprising, innovative work. And flow isn't just pleasurable, it's essential. When you regularly tap into flow, you develop deeper trust in your process, create more authentic work, and avoid the burnout that comes from constantly forcing creativity. It's pretty fascinating to look into Csikszentmihalyi. I butchered that name. I'm so sorry. I meant to practice it before going live. His work is really incredible on flow, not just with creatives, but with athletes and professionals of all different kinds, and how they can really level up and accomplish things they've never been able to accomplish before by allowing themselves to practice some of the methods that he talks about in his work. I'm not going to do this whole segment on him, this whole episode, but it would be worth a whole episode on his work. So maybe I'll consider that. Let me know if you'd like to see that, and just say something about it in the comments. So here we go. Section 2, common blocks that disrupt creative flow. If flow feels elusive, it's often because something in your creative environment or your mindset is blocking it. Some of the most common flow blockers include overscheduling, when your calendar is packed, there's no room for deep immersion, or there's constant interruption from notifications to family demands, external noise pulls you out of focus. Could be construction next door. It could be the neighbor's barking dog or your own dog just begging to go out. I know these constant things do not allow for flow at all. Another way that we're often blocked from flow is perfectionism, our own idea, the like editing yourself in real time. There's no space for flow to unfold when we are doing that, when we're editing ourselves in real time. And then there's also emotional clutter. When you bring unresolved stress into the studio, it's hard to drop into that clear, playful zone. There are certainly techniques for helping you get there, and we'll be talking about some of those. The good news is that each of these that I just mentioned can be reframed or redesigned so flow becomes more accessible. So here's what you need to know about designing your personal flow formula, let's call it. The most prolific artists don't wait for inspiration. They build conditions that invite flow. Here's how you can do the same. First, know your natural rhythm. Are you more creative in the morning, late at night, or after physical activity? Pay attention to your energy cycles and schedule creative time during your natural peak. Number two, create rituals that signal flow time. Whether it's brewing tea, putting on a specific playlist, or tidying up your space, maybe even lighting a candle, free-flow rituals help signal to your brain that it's time to drop in. Protect your creative time. This is number three. Block off distraction-free creative sessions. No email, no phone, no multitasking, no social media checking. Let your mind fully settle into your work. Number four, embrace imperfection. This can be really hard for those of us who are still trying to recover from perfectionism. So this is really important though for flow. Flow thrives when you release expectations. Let the first draft be messy. Let the paint run. Let the dance be awkward. Flow follows freedom. You let yourself go into those spaces without the editing, without the perfectionism getting in the way, and allowing for the messy parts to show up and being okay with them and seeing what happens in the messiness, because that's where you really get some magic happening. And number five, trust the transitions. What does that mean? It means not every session will start and flow, and that's totally okay. Start small and trust that the rhythm will find you. So, for example, if you make sure that you get into the studio at the same time every morning, for example, and on your way down on a Thursday morning, you had this disruptive phone call or something with a neighbor, whatever it is, and you're still trying to get down to the studio, go ahead and get down to the studio, because that in itself will let your mind know, hey, she's going to the studio. It's time to get into flow. It's time to get into the work. You might find out when you sit down that nothing's coming to you because your mind is still, trying to work out whatever the thing was, or you're still having the emotions related to the thing. Here's one of the practices that I find super duper, super, super, super helpful. And that is simply to do some mindfulness practices. It can take 2 minutes or 1 minute. You just sit down, you feel your feet on the floor, you feel your butt in the chair, you feel yourself supported. And you take a long, slow, deep breath in through your nose, and you let it out through your mouth. Do that a few times, feeling yourself in the chair with your feet on the ground. Breathe in, let it out through your mouth, and do another one. You could start listening to the sounds, or you can listen for your heart. You can listen for the silence. Listen into the silence. Let your mind sort of go blank with the breath. just paying attention to your breath alone, that will help you let go of whatever was happening earlier. Getting out of your thinking mind and getting into your body, getting into your breath, and noticing how your breath and your body just does its own thing. Your breath breathes the body. It does it all by itself. You don't even have to help it. You don't even have to be aware of it for your body to keep doing its breathing thing. It's pretty cool. So when you can bring your attention away from all the noise and all the disruption that's going on in the world, because we know there's a lot of that happening, and you come back into your body and into this present now moment, you will definitely feel a greater sense of calm. And in that greater sense of calm, your innate wisdom, your innate intelligence, your innate creativity will start to bubble up. And it will want to have a say on the page or on the canvas or however you're working in your movements. And so that's how you bring yourself back into flow. One of the ways that I've found to be the most reliable, the most successful in getting back into a state of flow. So here's some artists who work in flow and have a practice. Hopefully I can get these names correctly. Tavares Strachan. Tavares is a Bahamian artist whose multidisciplinary work explores hidden histories, identity, and discovery. His projects, often combining sculpture, performance, and science, require deep focus across multiple stages. Strachan has spoken about his commitment to immersive work periods where distractions are intentionally minimized so his mind can fully inhabit the complexity of his ideas. His practice highlights the importance of space and time for sustained creative flow. So it'd be fun to look into more about what his practice looks like, whether it's hours of time, whether it's in his regular workspace or he goes and devotes, really dedicated time in another location outside of his regular everyday life. It'd be fun to check that out. And I know that I will probably go down that rabbit hole, and that will be fun. Okay, another one is Camille Henrot, a French contemporary artist working across film, painting, and installation. Henrot's practice balances research, improvisation, and intuition. Her ability to follow the thread of her curiosity without rigid plans allows her to stay in flow even when projects shift unexpectedly. It's a great, great way to be, like to flow with what's happening in the moment in the context of the work you're doing, and to be able to pivot enough through listening intuitively to your own inner wisdom and flow to notice what would be the next right move for you in that space. And then another is Mark Bradford, who is known for his monumental mixed media works. Bradford's process embraces physicality and deep engagement with materials. His ability to lose himself in the tactile process, tearing, layering, building up, demonstrates how flow emerges when mind and body align in the act of making. So here's your flow invitation. Flow isn't something you earn through suffering. Nope. It's something you can invite through intention. So this week, I invite you to identify your most flow-friendly time of day. Is it late at night? Is it when there's nobody around or awake to distract or interrupt you? Or is it super early in the morning before everybody is awake? Or is it some other time of the day that works for you based on some other structure? Like, where do you feel the most like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get in there and do the work, the creative work. Okay, secondly, create a pre-flow ritual that signals it's time to create. So like I said, that could be lighting a candle. It could be journaling. It could be exercise. It could be whatever it is that that gets you into flow. It's going to be different for all of us. And then also, the invitation is to protect one block of time for deep, uninterrupted creative play. Can you do that this week? I really hope you do that for yourself. Put it in your calendar, protect that block of time. Could be an hour, could be 20 minutes, it could be 4 hours, whatever it is that you can create, and then protect it. Don't let anything run over that time. And I feel like I should say this because it's very possible that if you've not been in flow for a long time and you're going to finally give yourself a block of time to do something. In my own experience, I've had it happen many times that in that session, I won't do anything creative. I will end up wasting that time. And it doesn't feel good. It feels pretty terrible. And I have, on occasion, kind of beaten myself up emotionally about it and criticized myself and been like, oh, I wasted that whole time. But here's the really interesting thing about being a creative. Unless we're using up our brain on some nonsense and really numbing ourselves out, the fact of the matter is our brain, our creative brains are always working. Our creative brains are receiving information and collecting information that will inform our work, even when we're doing groceries, even when we're at our day job, even when we are uh, brushing our teeth to go to bed. Our brains, our creativity receptors are always on. And so even if you deem that scheduled block of time as completely wasted and that you didn't do anything productive, reframe that and actually allow yourself to accept that that is part of the process. And it's a critical part of the process because the more you allow yourself or forgive yourself for doing that, for using your time that way, the easier it will be to allow your attention to shift to the creative work that you intended to do. And if you keep holding on to that judgment, each time you go into the studio or that session that you've blocked out to work, it's not going to help you at all, right? So basically you go into the studio again and you say, okay, I'm showing up. My intention is to do X, Y, and Z. And you might even pick up your phone and start doing Instagram scrolling. Or if you're looking for music, this happens to me a lot. If I look for music I want to listen to on YouTube and I notice all these stories about things that are going on right now, and I really want to go see what's being said or being reported on, it takes a lot of willpower and focus and energy to divert my attention away and say, no, that will be there after the session. I do not need to do this now. I caught myself in the act of going there. I honor the desire to go there, but this is my protected creative time. That other, what's going on down the rabbit hole research can happen at any other time in the day. But the creative time is really only blocked out for now. I can't just step in any time of the day to the studio and just start creating, right? So you'll build the muscle of stopping yourself from wasting time as you allow yourself the practice of going into the studio bit by bit. Sometimes after a long, long time of not spending time in the studio, there was a time, this is many years ago, where I decided that if nothing else, I will go into the studio for just 15 minutes. And that's all I needed to do. I just needed to show up and be with my materials. And I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to create anything. I just needed to be in the space where creativity happens and has happened and will happen again. And by not demanding a whole lot of myself, other than to simply show up, Then eventually the ideas started coming, the curiosity started coming, the picking up materials and playing with them started to happen. The new ideas for a body of work started happening. And so then those 15 minutes became easier and easier, and even would extend beyond the 15 minutes when I had the ability to do that. And so I think, yeah, so I wanted to make sure I added that one in because I think it's really critical to allow yourself permission to mess around and waste some time as long as you're putting into your structure, into your scheduled work time, you show up for it. Eventually you'll put down the distractions and are meanwhile telling your body and your mind that you are here for creative work, right? So I just came across this cool, if you don't know this book already, Rick Rubin's The Creative Act is one of the best books I've ever seen on creativity. I love it. I have the audio book and I have the physical book, and I gift it to everybody that I know who is creative or even thinking about being creative in their world. So, yeah, it's really phenomenal. And this one struck me, and it's relevant to what I was just talking about. A rule is a way of structuring awareness. Got it? A rule is a way of structuring awareness. So to me, what that means is, like I was saying, my rule is I'm going to give myself 15 minutes every morning at 10 o'clock, for example, to be in the studio before I have to do other day job work or anything else. And my rule is to come in the studio, sit down, and be in the creative space. I don't have to do anything but show up. The awareness happens when I'm in that 15-minute block. And what do I notice? I notice I'm picking up the phone to scroll on internet on Instagram. Oh, okay. Awareness number one. Awareness number two. Oh, I see that I want to sweep the studio. Does that have to happen right now? No, it doesn't have to happen. Is it essential to the creative work? Actually, that one might be because, at least in my experience, the sweeping is a beautiful, meditative, mind clearing practice. And I have found that that has helped me out a lot. Do I have to sweep every single day or every time I come into the studio? Probably not. Um, so, yes, it's an opportunity to notice, to open up awareness, and that will help you develop your practices for flow. Okay? And remember that flow doesn't always announce itself right away. Sometimes it's the act of starting that opens the door. Like I was saying, just come down to your studio or wherever it is, be in the space. The act of starting opens the door. In fact, okay, this is coming to mind as well. Uh, just recently, I was in a retreat, and the leaders were suggesting that we do some journaling on a prompt. And I don't remember the prompt, but specifically, and that doesn't matter exactly. It was just like, you know, it was a writing prompt, very simple, like, I will never say blank, right? And if you couldn't think of something right away, just in the journal, spend the 7 minutes or however long we had. I will never say, I will never say, I will never say. Eventually, the brain's going to give you an answer, and you say, I will never say blah, 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 blah. I will never say blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that's the idea. It's like the starting, well, it's like priming the pump. That's what it is. Well, we don't have to do that anymore, so that might not be a very useful metaphor. But in the old days when we had wells of our own and we'd pump the water pump to get the water flowing. So then we could collect it in buckets and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the act of starting is often what opens the door to flow. Okay, so if you are craving more flow and less frustration in your creative practice, I'm opening up a few spots for creative process coaching sessions. Any kind of consulting or coaching that you need this month, just a few spots. Together, we'll uncover your personal flow triggers, design a creative rhythm that works for your life, and help you experience more ease, trust, and joy in your creative process. You can check the link in the show notes. I'll put it below in this Facebook post as well. And just keep showing up. Flow is waiting for you. Thanks for tuning in to the Thriving Creative. If you found this episode helpful, share it with a fellow creative who's ready to experience more flow and less struggle in their work. Until next time, stay curious, stay open, and keep creating. I send you all my best. Ciao.